Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Game with JC. I'm your host, JC. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. All my returning listeners, appreciate y'all. New people, make sure you tap the subscribe button, like, comment, follow on social media, all that good stuff so we can stay connected. As y'all can see by the title of the video, man, been a minute since we got some Atlanta Falcons content on the page, kind of really just been shying away from the football content period. Just based off how the season been going, but just wanted to come talk right now because I feel like we had a talking point and kind of had a bypass right now in this organization where some things need to change, some things have been needed to change, and we're just really going to talk about how we got to this point and what needs to happen moving forward, and how those moves can potentially get this franchise back to where they need to be. But basically, y'all know today suffered a loss to the Jets. I feel like that's just like the bottom line of any indicative of any coaching staff that you're just not it. I'll say, as a precursor or anything that I say, I really feel like it's not a talent issue on this team. There's definitely some spots that could, stand an upgrade here and there, but it's not a talent roster that's screaming 4-8, in my opinion. I think they're underachieving in the margins, and we'll talk about those margins. When I say the margins, it's like the NFL is a league of margins. Like, it's hard to get a win in the NFL. You have to excel in the turnover battle. That's a margin. Third down, who's winning third down, field position, your scheme that you're running, the weekly, even the stuff during the week that leads up to the game, like the preparation that you put in, film study, all those type of things. And I feel like those all kind of lead back to coaching, and I really just think that the Falcons are lacking in all those departments. So when you look at why you play teams like the Patriots and the Colts, who are like 8 and 9 win teams, why you play those teams close, and the 49ers, you play them close, and, you can beat a team like Buffalo, but then you also are so volatile that you can lose to teams like Carolina twice, including 30-0. You can get blown out at home by a Miami team at the time who was looking like, one more loss potentially would have been Mike McDaniel's last game as their head coach. Like I said, lose to the Jets today. And it's just, you're really on the margins of things, and you're not getting any help from this coaching staff at all when it comes to those things. I think these players are basically going uphill, pushing this staff uphill, going against the other team uphill. And it's like this staff is not doing anything to propel these players. I can't really say any player on this team is necessarily a product of the system. Like, I think defensively things have been a lot better this season. Of course you could say that because the Falcons have been bottom tier, bottom ranking in every defensive stat for, pretty much my whole time being a fan of the team in my, 20-plus years. But, Jeff Ulbrich has came in. He's had a pretty nice turnaround this year. I don't think he's all-world or anything. I don't think this defense is all-world. But, top 5 in sacks this year. Pretty decent in the turnover department. They're doing some other good things. Like I said, they're about an league average to above average defense a little bit. And from where we have been, that's definitely an upgrade. I think you can see the emphasis on coaching on defense. Like, I think you can tell that Ulbrich is an experienced play caller on defense. He has his lapses sometimes. He has his game plan sometimes that's just like, what the fuck? But I think you can tell the difference. Like, special teams right now is a mess. I think the special teams coordinator, he has to go. Giving up long returns every week. We're not getting anything in the return game. The kicking game was a mess. It wasn't reliable. We're just now getting to the point where we even want to send the kicker out there, and this is our third kicker of the year. I don't know why Cool was brought back to start the year after he had been slumping off the past couple years. They claimed to bring in another kicker, an international guy, Lenny Krieg. That was a kicking competition, but during the whole time we've been struggling for a kicker, he hasn't been looked at not one time. So how much of a competition really was it that you still had to go out and sign, multiple other guys, and you didn't even get that guy a look? So I just feel like it's incompetence everywhere you look. You look at the offensive side of the ball. Zach Robinson was brought in from the Rams. He came up under Sean McVay. We know what kind of offense they like to run, but it's like he doesn't do anything that mimics somebody that came up after McVay at all. Like, he's like the worst disciple of a Sean McVay tree that in the league. And it's like we had to get stuck with that. And it's like I haven't really even looked at Penix critically this season because, yeah, he does have things he needs to work on. But as a rookie quarterback, essentially, you have to be helped out by your coaching. Like, the coaching staff has to uplift the rookie quarterback to an extent. It's going to be growing pains. We said that at the beginning of the season, for how he looked in those last 3 to 4 games last year or whatever. It's going to be growing pains once he's the starter. I think he showed flashes. I think he shows flashes of a NFL quarterback. He can make NFL level throws, but for him to have to play hero ball this season was just not a fair ask. And with this scheme, like it's hero ball. I think my frustration really with this offensive staff came to the all-time high last week when the Falcons beat the Saints and Kirk was under center for all the majority of the game. You really didn't see the pistol like that. You saw play action. You saw middle of the field passing. Things we weren't seeing with Penix, and we were wondering why aren't we seeing these things? And then you have Raheem and Zach basically come out and damn near really just throw Penix under the bus, saying that Kirk is more comfortable under center, and they weren't. I guess Penix isn't comfortable doing those things. Well, for one, if that's true, no fault of his own because he, coming from college, most of these guys aren't running under center offense. So you've had really 2 offseasons with him. You drafted him top 10. You mean to tell me he's not worth investing in, some extra time? Hey, let's get 200 snaps under center today. Let's get 200 snaps on. I don't understand why a simple thing like getting under center and taking a snap from under center is he's so bad at that, to the coaching staff's word, that you can't throw that out there 2 or 3 times a possession. That's ridiculous to me. And then I just feel like they blatantly lie in our face because it's you say that Kirk is more comfortable under center, but yet you introduced this pistol offense last year when Kirk was the starter. And everybody in the league, everybody around the league is questioning because we all know Kirk is an under center quarterback. He lives under center, the play action game. That's what made him successful. And last year when his pistol was implemented, it's brung up as, I guess they said it was because of the lack of mobility he had. I feel like the freaking pistol was stressing that Achilles more. But Kirk said it wasn't due to injury. So it's just somebody's lying, clearly. Even if the truth is he's more comfortable under center, which, okay, that's a truthful thing. If Penix is the guy, the starter, you just can't allow him not to get under center. That's just bad coaching, period. Just because a player isn't comfortable with something, the job as a coach is to coach him up to a point of getting comfortable with it. So I just feel like it's bad. The offense, like I said, the pistol formation, the lack of play action, short yard situations, even just the player usage. It's he still quite doesn't understand who he has personnel-wise. I feel like sometimes runs that's for Algier should be for Bijan and vice versa. The lack of just receiving weapons, period, the firing of Ike Hilliard this to start the year and then cutting Ray McCloud was so odd to me. I really feel like they said something to either Raheem or Zach that they wasn't really messing with, and I think Raheem just kind of got rid of him. But last year they lived in 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, and it's just this year. It's just to start the season, it didn't really make sense, in my opinion. It kind of looked like they didn't really carry anything over from last year. Even some of the route concepts they was running last year, they not running this year. And not to say the offense was all world last year. We all know it was 6-3 start. Apparently, Kirk says he got hurt in the Saints game. But I still feel like the offense had times last year when it was just really lapsing. I don't think Zach Robinson took that jump from year 2. From year 1 and year 2 for me personally. And I think he's in over his head, and I think it all culminates with Raheem is in over his head, because if he wants to take that CEO, that Mike Vrabel from the Patriots, that Dan Campbell from the Lions approach, then you have to be able to call out or adjust size of the ball that need fixing. Last year, to his fault, he hired Jimmy Lake, and that was terrible. And he did take over the defense towards the end of the season, but you've made the wrong mistake again. You hired 2 first-time coordinators for a win-now team, according to your words. And I just feel like he's in over his head. His time usage is terrible. His clock management is terrible. He's not holding guys accountable, in my opinion. I just think, as far as, like I said, those margins, he doesn't give us anything positive in those margins. Like, there's no competitive advantage he gives us. At anything, he puts us at a disadvantage. Um, a lot of people are in favor of the GM Terry Fontenot staying, but I just feel like when you have 5 losing seasons in a row, like, you really can't stay. I don't have a problem as many people have with Terry. Like, I think, like I said, if I can say in the same breath that it's not a player issue, then it's hard for me to look at the GM. But when I look at some of the things he's done, I mean, the quarterback thing with signing Kirk, drafting Penix, like, giving Kirk that money off that injury was just kind of crazy, period. It wasn't world-breaking money for a quarterback in the league nowadays, but for his age and that injury and just, like, the proven his record, I mean, he's not a guy that's going to win you games in the playoffs, but I can understand the desperation for a quarterback given how the past few years have gone. But to turn around and then draft one top 10, it's looking like neither one of those moves was correct. Like I said, I'm not out on Penix yet, but that injury he has does throw things into question. So, I mean, it's like you struck out there. Some of the draft things he's done, like Kyle Pitts was a mistake. Drafting a tight end number 4, like, that was a mistake. He's hit on a couple picks, I'll admit, like, Drake London and Bijan Robinson, those guys are hits. He's the draft class he had last year with Dorless and Ororo. Free agent signings, I think he excels in that aspect. Like, I think he brings in some decent guys every free agent class. I just think, 5 years he needs to be gone. I don't think he needs to be gone, but I just feel like he's most likely to be gone because I think you just need to wipe it all clean, in my opinion. So for future-wise, I think, it's Sunday night right now, going Sunday evening while I'm recording this. Honestly, I've been saying Raheem need to be fired weeks ago. I think Arthur Blank just doesn't have it in him to fire him and without giving him the full season. I really think Arthur Blank wants to give him a 3rd year, but I think Raheem is just so incompetent that he can't even coach the record up to a point of even, like, getting that 3rd year. Like, if he was to get, like, 8 wins, I think he would have found his way. But, they sitting at 4-8 right now. They still got games against Seattle, Tampa Bay, the Rams. I feel like they'll be lucky to get 6 wins at this point. Like, bro, you just lost. You're losing to teams that are really not trying to win games. Like, but the Dolphins were down and out. Like, they was, like I said, on the brink of firing their head coach. You lost to a Carolina team 30-0. Then you turn around and blow a lead to them, lose to them at home as well. Like I said, they losing on the margins. They losing to teams they shouldn't be losing to. But honestly, they are a team right now that's like, they're the team that people shouldn't be losing to, in my opinion. I think everything that people say about this team around the league, they turn around and fall right in, like, the narrative. Like, the team has a narrative right now. You could say it's a culture thing. That was the reason why they brung Raheem in, because he fit the culture, but he wasn't the best option at all in that coaching hire, that coaching cycle. Like, you had Vrabel, you had McDonald out there in Seattle. It's like every coach that you could have brung in that you interviewed, they're successful everywhere they are. Like, I don't think one guy had did bad, probably besides Belichick, and he went down to college, But Raheem was just a comfortable hire for this franchise, and that's what the narrative around this team is. Like, is she good? It's comfortable. They're not going to be too hard on you. And I think that's an Arthur Blank problem. I think he's created that narrative with this franchise. And I think for it to change, you're going to have to bring somebody in who can change it. And the Raheem Morris hiring was just a mistake. It wasn't it. He's not a good head coach. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. He might be a good coach. He's been coaching the league for 30 years, many different positions, but he's just not a good head coach. So, it's just frustrating because his team, like I said, had optimism coming into the season, had optimism coming into last season. It's just like, and this season has probably gone the worst possible way possible, because it's just like I said, with the Penix injury, and you got guys coming up on contracts. Like, Drake London is due for a contract, Bijan is due for a contract in a couple years. AJ Terrell got paid already, Chris Lindstrom got paid, but it's just like, you got guys that have been here their whole contract tenure, and they have never been to the playoffs. Like, that's not a good look for your star players. That's not a good look for your organization. You got this new stadium that's never hosted a playoff game. When you host a game, you damn near outnumber away fans. Like, it's a reason for these things, and Arthur Blank is going to have to look to himself to make changes. Like, Rich McKay can't be in these meetings anymore. He's clearly the connective tissue between things going wrong, and no serious organization operates like that with a middleman between the GM or operating as the damn near GM, and the GM is just there for name purposes. Like, it's not a good look. It's going to have to change. And honestly, I've never been for blaming the owner. But if he continues to put this type of product on the field, because the team is a representation of him, and if he doesn't make any changes, then that just go to show you that he doesn't care. Like, that's basically what you're saying. You basically saying, damn the fans, screw y'all, I don't care. That's what you're saying when you put this type of shit out on the field and you put these type of people in leadership positions and they're failing at their job and nothing is changing. Like, there's nothing more left to see. Carolina and Tampa Bay got wins today. You're out of the division race. You're not making the playoffs. You have damn near the longest playoff drought in, I want to say, the NFL. It's time to cut this shit off. And that was saying that, you know, of course we know we don't have our first round pick this year. That's another thing. You know, they went all in trying to get the pass rush fixed, which I can't say they did. You know, I don't blame them necessarily for that move. It's going to be another thing we're going to have to hear about, people talking about with this team. Like, you just gave a first round pick to a team that very much well can win the Super Bowl, if not are going to be in the playoffs. So whoever comes in here is definitely going to have some work cut out for them, but I don't think it's just a lost cause type of roster. Like, there are pieces there. I think it's a top-heavy roster, if that makes sense. Like, depth-wise, you do need to, like, fatten it up a little bit here and there. Some places, I think wide receiver is a place you need to get some pieces. Like, Mooney has been a disappointment this year. I think besides Drake London, we don't have anything. I think Pitts, I think it's time for him to just try it somewhere else. I don't have a problem. I'm just tired of the narrative around him, period. Like, if the offense don't want to use him, if it's him, I'm just tired of hearing about it every single season. He's not going to be what people want him to be. So just let him go somewhere else and try it. Offensive line is starting to become a need. It's always a need, in my opinion. You should always be adding to the line. There's the Penix question, and that leads to my next thing. I really feel like the next person they bring in, it has to be one of these young offensive minds. I think they need to go with that flow of how teams are going. Like the Bears with Ben Johnson, how he straightened out Caleb Williams in that offense, got him at the number 1 seed currently right now. Look like they're on the way to the playoffs. Sam Darnold, with Clint Kubiak in Seattle, offensive coordinator, and with last year, Kevin O'Connell, and with the Vikings, like Dave Canales down in Carolina, that got them in playoff contention. Just Mike McDaniel, even with Miami, how they fighting back this year. I just feel like you have to get these young offensive minds as the head coach. And I'm not saying that's the only way, but let's just put a point of emphasis as, you run into a problem like a Detroit, which I think Dan Campbell is a hell of a coach, but you do run into a problem with keep getting your offensive coordinator poached. And I feel like young quarterback, young offensive mind, if you get an offensive mind as a head coach, his top priority is going to be, of course, running the team, but he's married to that quarterback. Now, I'm not saying whoever they bring in wants to be married to Penix, and that might be a conversation that needs to be had at a later date. Penix might not be in the future plan for the next person they bring in. They might have to bring in a bridge quarterback such as a Malik Willis, a Jacoby Brissett type. Who knows? Like, that's another issue that we'll have to face because, like I said, he's probably not going to be ready for the start of next season in a time where he needs to be getting those reps. Not saying he's going to miss the whole season next year. If I had to bet money, I'm pretty sure he's going to be the starter next year. But like I said, you bring in somebody else new, they might not be in love with Penix the same way the previous staff was. I think it's worth trying to see with him, though, under a competent offensive staff that is willing to build a real scheme around him and is able to freaking call plays and sequence plays and game plans for an offense. I think that would be nice to see him under that because I think he is capable, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not falling in love with anybody at this point. If we choose to go a different route, it is what it is. It sucks because he's fought through so much adversity with injuries. But I just want to win. I'm tired of this. If I had to throw my opinion out there, even though my opinion, isn't reaching the organization, I think Clint Kubiak in Seattle is the guy for the job. Like I said, he has that lineage. His father has coached in the league before. He's coached in the league for a minute now. Everywhere he go, the offense is clicking. And, Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, could potentially stay if he comes. I'm not tripping if Ulbrich leaves or not. I know Ulbrich does appear to have a rapport with this defense to be building something. I know we've been cycling defensive coordinators in and out, but I'm pretty sure Kubiak can bring somebody in, So that would be my vote. Like I said, the young offensive mind route, I think that's the new meta in the NFL, so to say. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator of Buffalo Bills. Kevin Stefanski maybe out there in Cleveland. Brian Daboll maybe if Mike McDaniels get fired. Maybe bring some of those guys in the OC role if you go get a CEO type coach or a defensive-minded head coach. But I think what they tried to do with Arthur Smith was getting that offensive mind head coach. I just think it didn't work out. And I think they tried to go back to the experience route with Raheem Morris. I think they need to go back to that offensive mind route. I don't think Arthur Smith was a good coach in my opinion, but he didn't have a quarterback. They never really invested in the quarterback position. So I think if you have one here, and of course when you interview these guys, you have to get their opinion on what they see about him. But I think Clint Kubiak is the answer. And but of course, everything we just said all goes to waste if the coaching hire and the coaching process is still not done right. I think Arthur Blank is going to have to get Rich McKay out of the situation, period. I know it's hard when you got those business relationships. You listen to people, you trust them, but it's not working. And I don't think anybody serious is going to consider this job knowing how things work inside the building. But yeah, that's my 2 cents, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I could keep going on and on and on and on, but so much to think about, talk about. I really don't have nothing jotted down. That was just kind of a general basis type of statements that I have for you guys. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments, man. Tough season. Hopefully we wake up tomorrow to some news and then we really can start compiling some head coaching lists. Time to get the mock drafts rolling. Like I said, no first round pick, but be interesting off season. Interesting rest of the season for sure. Just see how much fight left the team has at this point. But yeah, man, y'all let me know what y'all think. Appreciate y'all.